Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. It's the final day of the week. We're going to be looking at our final alternative rock track. This one's from a band called Oceansize, which is a name that I've seen in the comments quite a bit recently. We're going to be looking at their debut album, though this is the remastered version of it. The song is Remember Where You Are. Let's dig into this. Ooh, interesting. So we're in 7/8. I mean, it sounds like a snare with the beats, the snare turned off, but it sounds like a very tight snare though. It has a high pitch to it. Very interesting rhythmic ideas here. I like the production on the vocal harmonies. What is going on here? Most. I feel like the time signature is all over the place, but the song sounds very cohesive. They're dancing between 4/4 sections and 9/8 sections. Like when they have those gaps of silence in that last section, sometimes it's a bar and sometimes it's a beat and sometimes it's a beat and a half. I don't think it's any surprise the drumming is so good. Single bite of cherry for you. A single bite of cherry for you. A single bite of cherry for you. A single bite of cherry for you. Yeah, a little bit of a disorienting panning effect. The piano is such a nice touch. I have to know what comes next. All right, I get it. Like I said, I've seen Oceansize quite a bit recently, and just wow. Um, so something really interesting about going through this um alternate rock week is how many times I'm like, oh, that's like this other band that I heard when I was a teenager. I went real hard into that yesterday with 30 Seconds to Mars, really talking about some of the bands that I heard within that music. Um, and it's and again, this reminds me of something like Smile Empty Soul, which I really think is a criminally underrated band. But um, but if they took it in a different direction of getting out of that grungy alt rock kind of sound and working more towards high production elements and focusing in on interesting ideas. Not to say that Smile Empty Soul doesn't do interesting ideas, but I feel like that band is more about, or at least why I listen to them, is more about their stories and the emotive aspect of the vocalist. The music is usually not why I listen to Smile Empty Soul, with the exclusion of a couple of songs. But yeah, for the most part, I listen to them for the vocalist. I think he's a fantastic storyteller. Um, so with this band though, we have some similar vibes to that style of music, which I mean, I understand that alt rock is kind of a big umbrella. I mean, we checked out like some pop punk stuff earlier this week with Sonic Youth, and so I mean, and then Carnival was like a huge uh, twist away from that, and then Smashing Pumpkins was its own thing. So like alt rock is this big umbrella concept for anything alternative to rock. I'm kind of getting in a sense, and there's actually a lot of subgenres I would say that kind of branched off from this larger umbrella idea. But this does sound like a lot of music that I was listening to as a teenager, which I guess is when this commercialized pop alternative rock kind of thing, pop grunge, I think I heard somebody say in the comments somewhere through this week. But yeah, this whole like commercialized alt rock kind of thing, they all kind of have a very similar sound to them, and like, yeah, it makes sense that this sounds like a lot of stuff I was listening to. But they went in a very different direction, which is probably why they didn't end up getting as much or maybe even any radio time. I've never heard of Oceansize before. And I'm not going to say that I'm a huge radio listener now, but I definitely listened a lot to the radio in high school when I started driving because I didn't have I think I might have had a cassette player in my car, but I didn't have cassettes. What were cassettes, man? But I didn't have a CD player. So I think I did listen to a lot of radio for a while until I got like an FM transmitter. And God, man, those were garbage. Right? I don't know if you guys ever had one of those, but they were not great. Anyways, though, getting off topic here. So these guys are kind of within that same area, but there's a huge emphasis on unique concepts, unique ideas, and I mentioned that there's no surprise that the drummer. We're shifting gears a little. My brain's going crazy. I a lot of stuff I want to talk about here. Um, I said it was no surprise the drumming was so good, and the drumming is very good here. A lot of it is more on the simpler side. We're not looking at a lot of polymetric ideas, or sorry, polyrhythms. We're not looking at crazy limb independence. Nothing on like the virtuosic side of drumming. However, I don't think that should diminish what the drummer is doing here, which is applying a lot of unique ideas within a tight uh, section of the song with multiple elements of embellishing ideas and utilizing drum fills throughout, not just to end a phrase, but almost at times to disrupt the phrasing of the rhythmic patterns. There's a lot of really cool drum ideas. If you listen to this song, it's only 5 minutes. I implore you to go do it again. I mean, if you didn't like it, don't, obviously, but yeah, I'll be listening to it again, that's for sure. And you just hone in on the drums, though. They are always doing something interesting. Always. Even if it's minute things, the opening was pretty much a standard sort of rolling pattern between toms and snares. But the snare sound was unique. And it's little attention to detail like that. But I bring this up about the drummer being good and having unique ideas and bringing something new to the table because the entire song is rhythmically interesting. And it makes me wonder how much of the drummer or how much influence the drummer had over the composition of this track, at least. I don't know if this is how every Oceanside song is going to be, but this is a highly rhythmic song. But the best part is, all right, so your best drummers are going to be able to take odd time signatures or odd phrasing lengths. It doesn't necessarily need to be an odd time signature. You can just have odd phrasing. You have 15-beat phrases. Or you can stick with 4/4, but instead of going for the standard 8-beat or 16-beat ideas, 4-bar, 8-bar phrases, go for a 9-bar phrase and try to cover up that oddity. Because a lot of people are going to be listening for the 4 or the 8, since those just one they're what a lot of music is a lot of popular music is based on, but two, they're even is more divisible. It just makes sense when you have this odd 1 bar. You have an 8-bar phrase plus an extra bar. It just feels odd. So a drummer is going to be able to take these unusual combinations, whether it's an unusual beat length or an unusual bar length, and help cover it up rhythmically so that it flows naturally, or at least has the impression of flowing naturally. And that is what happens in here constantly. The opening 7/8 concept was a little jarring. There wasn't a lot of work in covering that up, probably more intentional to create that little hiccup, that little tripping feeling there. However, later on, we were bouncing between time signatures or possibly utilizing a very lengthy phrasing for the time signature, maybe like a 15/16 kind of thing. 15/8 maybe even. Yeah, not 15/16, maybe like 15/8. Um, and just making it have such flow, not necessarily within the drums themselves, but within the lead elements, which for this song is pretty much the vocals. Um, and just utilizing the catchiness of the melody to sort of cover up some of the hiccups within the time signature, or maybe combinations of time signatures, or just odd phrasings. There's just and I mention all these because there were a couple of sections that I have no idea what was going on, and for all I know, it was in 4/4, just counted oddly, emphasized oddly. There's definitely one section that I felt like it was probably getting close to 4/4. Maybe it was a hair off, maybe something like 15/16, where it's just the slightest nth of a beat away from the standard 4/4 idea, but they were also utilizing odd accented beats sometimes, and it wasn't even just odd that they were unusual, like accenting if it were an 8-beat phrase, accenting beats like 3, 6, and 8. Like there is a rhythm to that, but it's not typical. It's not every other beat or every four or something like that. It's the third and then the third and then the second, which breaks it up into this odd 3-3-2 feeling. Again, utilizing things that are not easily divisible, that don't create perfect loops. I think is what I mean when I say that. Um, so I firmly heard though one section they emphasized like beat 3 and then beat like 6 or something, and then the next time it was like the end of 3 and then the end of 5, and it was all over the place. It was constantly changing. And that paired with the fact that I couldn't really nail down a time signature because I couldn't find a perfect loop to really nail down how long the phrase was, made me think that we were doing odd accents against odd time signatures, and that is just bonkers. But the fact that it kind of flows and you can just kind of jam along with what the vocals are doing and kind of what the guitar is vamping on, and it's wild how they can create these sections that I can't parse rhythmically, but I can jam along to without any question of where I should be bobbing my head to. And that is just fascinating. I love it. Uh, it's something I have a lot of problems with in my writing, probably because I'm not a rhythmic person. I'm more of a melodic harmonic person. I come from pianos and trumpets, and just writing for percussion, I tend to write them as melodic instruments. I think I've talked about this before. I don't see the drums as instruments to keep time. I see a drum kit as a variety of notes, and I write their parts as if it were just another pitched instrument. And I've actually had people comment on me about a very unique rhythmic style to my to my playing. Um, and yeah, I guess for better or worse, but I do have a really hard time just creating like rhythmic metronome style drumming parts. Um, and to do this, to create a song with such rhythmic element to it, uh, it is just, ah, it is baffling. It is jaw dropping, and I need more. Like I said, I don't know if this is indicative of Oceansize's style. Maybe this is one of the more proggy, more time signaturingly progressive tracks they have. Maybe everything else they do is more on the simple side, but um, yeah, I'm enthralled here. Um, Aside from rhythm, though, we have a pretty interesting. Oh wait, one more piece of rhythm. I can't get away from this. The rhythmic structure of this song is really, really interesting, and I'm sure I'm only scratching the surface, which makes me want to dig in even more. Um, there is one section, I think it's like a pre-chorus. We get these two vocals. I think they're the only thing going, and they do this really monotone kind of melody, and then there's a break, and then they do the monotone melody, and then there's a break, and the break is just silence, and sometimes it's a beat, which lines it up with 4/4. There's 7 beats of talking, 1 beat of silence. That's 8 beats. That's 2 bars of 4/4. And if we went with that, it would be a pretty standard repetition. But Oceansize refuses to be standard. So occasionally, that section of silence will be a beat and a half, and it will turn it into a 9/8 instead of a 4/4. So, well, instead of 2/4/4s, we'd have 1/4/4 and a 9/8. Um, and it just creates this extra longing in those pockets of silence, and you never know when it's going to happen. At least I didn't. I couldn't find a pattern to it. I think the first time it came around, it was every time when we got that extra eighth beat, eighth of and the extra eighth note, the extra half a beat. But There was definitely a time in there when it wasn't, even if it was predominantly adding the extra half a beat. But then, like the second or third time he came around to it, I was like, okay, I'm waiting. Let me count this out. And I was counting. I'm like, wait, this isn't 4/4. The last time was not. No, it was not in 4/4. I'm pretty sure this was had extra beats to it. And then it throws in a random 9/8. I'm like, oh, see, there it is. And then we went back to 4/4 the next time, and I was losing my mind because there doesn't seem to be any reason for the way that the time changes throughout the song. It exists. It's just chaotic and it's enthralling. This is a very different type of controlled chaos than something like Dillinger Escape Plan or Car Bomb. I think Car Bomb might be a better analogy for that. That is just pure chaos. This is harmony over chaotic rhythmic elements, and I think it's beautiful. I really do. It's fascinating. I think I've used that word too many times, but I'm so enthralled by what they're doing here, and also very confused. And I think that just adds to uh, my enthrallment, my enjoyment of this is that I don't really know what's going on. Like I have a gist of it. And if I had time and I could pause it, pen and paper, write it down, I could figure it out. But it's not something I'm just going to pick up on the fly like this. And that's just wow. Um, so going to melody though, I really enjoy a lot of the ways that the guitar and vocal work is produced. I don't think there's anything in here that really wowed me, really stood out to me as super interesting or anything that was really breaking the mold as far as tones or styles of vocal delivery, timbres, or anything like that. Any sort of riffs that were really blowing my mind. But the production is spot on. The way that instruments are placed within the production, how they fill up the soundscape, the ideas of how to produce less full sections versus more full sections, the contrast there, and how it's contrasted in the production EQ wise and all that stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of attention to detail here to create uh, a very uh, complex, contrasting sound. Every section has its own sort of sonic identity as far as the production goes, and I think that's interesting. A lot of bands tend to change the sound of the instrumentation. Maybe they have a lead tone on their guitar and a rhythm tone or a solo tone, but I don't feel like there's sections like this where it's almost like color grading in a film, if that makes sense to anybody. Where you're not changing the hardware, you're changing it all in post, sort of. Um, and it's little tweaks that can change how a section feels, or in film, it would be how it's perceived, how it looks. Um, and it's there's a lot here. I'm gonna have to listen to this again because I was very overwhelmed with everything going on, which I think is fascinating because on the surface, this is just a typical radio rock song. Aside from some of the meter changes and oddities, the overall vibe, the overall sound of the song, I think would have fit on a radio. A decade and a half actually. My local radio station's still playing music from the 90s and 2000s. They have not updated their music at all. Thanks, Clear Channel. So yeah, I could see this fitting on the radio right now. And it just kind of boggles my mind that something that feels so safe, so simple and familiar can be so unique and mind-boggling and unfamiliar. And I think that's where I stand on this one. I think that's going to be the end of this reaction. I'm trying to think of anything else. I really did spend way too much time listening to the rhythmic aspects. They were definitely the highlight of the song for me. and I'm gonna have to go back and give it another listen. But those are my thoughts. Oceansize's Remember Where You Are Remastered. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this one. If it stuck out to you as much as it did to me, or if you felt maybe this was a bit more generic and maybe I'm overselling it. I don't know. I'm not selling anything, but I do know that this is this. Yeah, I'm listening to this later. This video gets turned off. I'm diving into this song again. Above the comment section in the description box, there's a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. You can grab some merch. You can join the Discord community, support me through Patreon, submit your own special selections, email me, all the stuff. It's all here. Go ahead and check that out. Above the description box, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We got one more video coming up in 4 minutes now. It'll be the last one for the week. It'll be the last one for a while, actually. I'll have a community text post going up about this tomorrow. Might as well do it tonight. I guess I'll just do it tonight. As usual, as I do both of the last 2 years of the channel running, I take the last 2 weeks of December off. I spend the holidays with my family, and I will be back January 3rd. I think it's the first Monday of January. Pretty sure it's the 3rd. We'll be returning back with the usual stuff, 2 videos a day. 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC, all the usual stuff. We're just taking a short 2-week break though. And it's a good time to catch up on videos if you need to. I know I put out quite a few videos every week, so I doubt everybody watches everything, but yeah, otherwise, enjoy your holidays, and we'll meet back first thing next year. That feels weird to say. Anyways, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos. That didn't work. Let's try this again.